everybody. Welcome to Luthiery Live. I'm Gabe, that's Mike. We are working on some guitars and stuff today. We're going to show you around a couple of the things that we've been doing in the shop. Getting everything set up and ready for bigger and better things here in our Luthiery shop. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions about guitars or about guitar repair, by all means, please leave them for us. We are happy to answer any questions that you have. Just chat with you about guitars or about life in general. All that's fine. I'm going to be working on just kind of setting up this guitar here. This is a guitar that we're going to have for sale, available in our store very soon. This is a GNL Tribute Legacy. It's an S-style guitar in Irish Ale Red, as they say. And it's a really fun sounding guitar. It's very twangy and funky kind of sounding. Very cool. We just had to order in a new tremolo bar for it, so we just got that in, and so we're now ready to actually set it up to play well. Mike's going to be working on a couple of different things today. We've got a Telecaster sort of project where we're going to be installing new hardware and stuff on that, and should be fun. But yeah, so by all means, if you have any questions or anything like that, or anything you'd like a Luthier's opinion on, we're here. We're happy to look into anything that you might have on your mind. So I'm going to get started on this, and we'll go from there, I guess. I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit here. Alright, first thing I'm going to do on this guy is I'm going to remove the old strings. We're going to put some new ones on there. These have got a little bit of wear on them, and they're a little rusty, and it's just what it came with when we found it. The setup on it is not terrible, actually, but it could probably use a little bit of fret leveling on the bass side. It's got a little bit of a hump right in the middle of the neck, so only on the bass side. The treble side is really just really nice and glossy, so we'll stick with that. And yeah, let me go get some strings on this guy.
Gonna have to get you playing in full step down there, Gabe.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's what I tuned on my guitars too.
Actually feels like there were maybe 8s on this before, so we'll have to see how it reacts to having some 9s or 10s even on it. I'm a person who tends to like 10s personally better than 9s, even on Strats, but most Strat players tend to prefer the 9s.
My bench is a mess. It's okay, it's my guitar.
So is Tight Bond Premium Wood Glue okay to use on neck to body of an acoustic guitar? What you want to use is Tight Bond 1, Tight Bond Original. Do not use Tight Bond 2 or Tight Bond 3. Those are waterproof Tight Bonds, and you do not want a waterproof Tight Bond, because if anything ever goes wrong in the future, where you need to be able to remove whatever you did, using Tight Bond 2 and 3 makes it basically impossible to undo whatever you've done. So, and Tight Bond 1 is perfectly strong. It is stronger than the wood itself, so there is no worry at all. So yes, Tight Bond is a perfectly acceptable glue to use on all of your wood-to-wood gluing for guitar-related purposes, acoustic or electric even. That is totally fine.
Make sure the joint's clean.
Yes, make sure your joint is clean and tight, and make sure to clamp. That's the other thing. Freshly sanded and clamped.
Yes.
The other type of glue that is most common for acoustics is hide glue, and we do use that a bit here. That comes in a granular form. It looks kind of like this. This is the one that we use, which is called LMI. It's Luthier's Mercantile. You can find their stuff on the web. Oh, I forgot that the camera's over here. This is the stuff we use. This is a lot of hide glue. but essentially it's almost like a, you know, like a sand or something like that. Actually, I didn't. I think I did that out of the camera. See, it's yeah, and you basically just add water to this, and then we use a crock pot actually that's on the other side of Mike over there with a little bit of water in it and a shot glass, where we put a little bit of this in there with a little bit of water. It melts together in this kind of warm bath, and you've got about 15 minutes, would you say, of working time?
Depends how cold it is. Sometimes only got 5, but we if you heat the parts, you heat the parts up a little bit. They don't have to be hot. They just have to be warm. It helps a lot. So extend that open time.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And if you kind of warm up any parts that you're actually gluing, hide glue is really kind of the gold standard of glues for woodworking in the guitar world, and highly recommended. But Tight Bond is perfectly acceptable as well. They both work very, very well. Tight Bond is you got a little bit more working time with it than with hide glue, and Tight Bond is not quite as easy to clean up as hide glue is. Hide glue is a little bit easier to work with in that regard, getting a nice clean joint and stuff. But neither is really all that difficult, to be honest with you. I'm going to turn off the fan back there. Is that good with you?
I know I just cleaned something off this guitar with my own finger. It's my guitar. Don't worry, guys. I would never do that to a customer's guitar.
Yeah, so... yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Hello, Telecaster Bear. Good to see you again. Welcome in.
All right.
We were just talking about various glues and things that are used in Luthiery here.
I don't know. I think it sounds a lot better with the acoustic guitar.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to turn it up loud.
We had so we have like a little practice amps and stuff basically that we use for testing out instruments and stuff here, and the one that is at Mike's bench is really a practice amp for an acoustic, and it sounds terrible, but it works for what we need it for, which is just to make sure that the various electronics and things are working properly, and so we were just kind of curious, since it is technically an acoustic amp. We were wondering if it actually sounds any better on an acoustic, and I guess the answer is yeah, sort of.
It was noticeably better, but it's still a little cheap amp.
Yeah, we were calling it. We were trying to jam a little bit earlier, through some electrics, and it was pretty. We were calling it fart box because it sounds very, very rough around the edges for sure.
Yeah. Say at least.
It sounds like some of that really horrible 70s distortion kind of thing that you got in some of those, like, I don't know, Deep Purple records and shit like that.
Hey,
Stuff
Fireball's
like
a good album.
Oh, no, not to diss Deep Purple by any means, but some of those tones are just not what you would find today. That's for sure.
You mean on that song, You Really Got Me, when they cut the speaker? It didn't sound good?
Right. Not my favorite thing.
It's iconic, but not good.
Right.
Is it bad or is it bad?
It's bad. But it worked for them.
It did.
So what you up to today, guys? Mr. LA or Mrs. LA, whoever you might be.
Yeah, Fred has a little bit there.
Sounds like you maybe know a thing or two about working on guitars. Are you a tech or a luthier yourself? Or an aspiring tech or luthier? I'm going to tighten up all the hardware and stuff as long as I have the opportunity of the strings off. Now's when you want to get in there and do all the little things that you're not going to be able to do very easily once the strings are back on it.
Oh, do you want me to cancel cancel all these discounts on this one. Remember?
Oh, was that to accommodate the loyalty points?
Yeah, remember on the last.
Then yes.
Yeah, because it was on the last one.
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. Let's see here. Gabe's gonna go help that customer while I get working on this Strat here. Or sorry, Telly. Jeez, my brain's not working today. Ooh, nap sounds good. So this guy's definitely a pretty serious parts caster. Was one of those fret light Telecasters where the had lights on the fretboard that would light up depending on and show you the patterns of what you have, all your different scales here and all your different keys, and it was basically gutted and changed into just like a standard player here. So none of the it doesn't even have the original neck, and none of the electronics from the fret light. We're changing the bridge, the plate, and we're also got a new pick guard, custom pick guard made. Hopefully that fits pretty good. We'll see. Oh, right back. Okay. I'm gonna check to see how this pick guard fits first. Slide right in. Alright, gonna have to take the neck off to get that on for sure. Of course, you could use a drill to make this faster, but that's also a good way to scratch the guitar. Typically, I always use hand tools for most things on a guitar. As far as like screws go, I don't want to have a little whoopsie and put a ding in somebody's guitar. Oh, it looks like it fits pretty dang good. Nice touch right there. Looks good. Let me see here. I get a little shine there. We got a lot of light coming in from the west side there. During the day, you can't see anything if you're looking out the window. Here we go. So you got a little glare there, but looks pretty good. Covers the old one. You can see. Take it off. See the discoloration of where the old pick guard was. He's going to. We're going to change this. A lot of this hardware is going to be changed to black, so he wanted a matte pick guard, and looks pretty good. Get the cover off of it and get it down. Neck fits around it. Alright, yeah. Pretty good fit right there. This bridge, the screw holes don't quite line up. I'm hoping the outer ones line up, but instead of having 3, it's 4. So the center one, is the 2 on the inside will miss the center one, so it won't be as big of a deal as far as having to dowel and re-drill. Closer in the shot here for you. Let's see. All right, later, Telecaster Barry. Have a good nap there. Of course, we have to unmount the bridge pickup before we put this back down. No big deal. Pretty standard here. And let's see. So we're kind of some of these old gold screws are going to stay, and some of them will be changed to black. Kind of got that gold black theme going on. Just checking my notes to see what gold parts are staying and which ones are going. All right. Guitar's been loved a lot, so the patina on the gold is nice wear there. I think it'll look really good with that black hardware. String ground still intact. We're also changing this control plate here, like I mentioned earlier. So all this hardware has to come off. There we go. Questions? If you guys have any questions, let me know. You always want to make sure if you're tightening or loosening any parts, electronic parts, to hold the part. Otherwise, you'll just twist it and break the wires off. wipe this down before getting this little wood crumbles and any major debris off before I put the bridge back down.
Appreciate it. Very good. Yeah, we'll be giving you a call or text if on both sides of that.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a good one. All right.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, a little bit of finish repair coming in the door there. Bedtime for Bear. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cute. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. We are an active running shop at the moment, so yeah, that was customer had some paint, some of the lacquer on his Mexican Stratocaster is separating from the body at the heel. And he wasn't really sure why that was going on. There's a couple of reasons why that occurs. So on Fender's production guitars, they are poly-dipped. They're dipped in polyurethane, and then they spray nitro over that. And what happens is you need a sealer between those layers. And if there's any sort of improper spraying, essentially, of that sealer, the layers don't connect very well. And that can occur just naturally. They can just cause separation there. It can also happen if moisture gets onto the wood, causing it to expand a little bit. And the poly is going to expand at a different rate than the nitrocellulose will, and so that can cause a separation there too. So that's what's going on with the guitar that just came in, and so we'll have to secure that. He's not all that concerned about hiding it entirely, but at least there were no like chips off entirely, so we should be able to just kind of
a little thin CA glue in there.
A little thin CA glue in there,
down.
clamp it down, and he should be all right. So if we have the ability to hide it a little bit from there, which we may, we might be able to kind of very lightly sand and buff that out too, and it'll look good. But the neck's going to have to come off the guitar. We're going to have to do a little bit of work in that regard. So very cool. While I have the strings off this thing, I should probably go ahead and oil up the fingerboard.
So bridge came with some sort of residue on it. Interesting.
With like a machine oil kind of thing, or?
Yeah. That's not uncommon, I suppose, but normally it's been a while since I put brand new hardware on something, but normally it doesn't come with the oil on it like that.
No, and I mean, they really should wipe it down, Companies really should do that more regularly, to be honest. They can kind of, it can be kind of gross, feeling, not a comfortable feeling either. If you're putting new hardware on it and it's got, a bunch of like residue from the machining process or something like that still on there. So better to clean it thoroughly and wipe it down before attempting to put it on. So I'm just oiling up this this board here, and let me see here. Probably show you a little bit better what else going on there. So see, it's really shiny right now. I'm letting the oil kind of soak into the board for a few minutes. I'm going to let that go, and if it winds up kind of drying up on its own, then I may need to reapply a second coat. If it stays just kind of shiny like this, that means that the board is saturated enough and I don't really need to reapply another coat, and I can just wipe up the excess oil. So that is what I'm doing there. And in the meantime, I know that I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjustment on the bridge down here with regards to the springs and stuff. So I am going to go ahead and open up the back plate so that I have access to those springs when I perform the setup on this.
Actually having to buff it, it's weird.
Oh yeah?
It's dull.
It is. I mean, it is buffing out nicely at least, though. But
I gotta take the saddles off anyway. To get it to go back on.
he's got the new hardware blues.
Yep, new hardware blues. It didn't say in the description. These look like Graphtec saddles, though, or Goto's version of Graphtec saddles.
Okay, it's kind of interesting.
No, doesn't it look like it has that the kind of look to it?
Yeah, it does kind of look like that. Yeah, you're right.
Sure. Not 100% sure on that. Looks different than the rest of the black, you know.
For sure. All right.
Is anybody actually watching right now?
Yeah, we do have somebody actively watching.
Thank you, viewer.
Yes, thank you, viewer, for joining us. If you have any questions or you want to talk about guitars or anything like that, feel free to ask us. We'll do our best to answer any questions you have or about guitar repair.
What's your favorite guitar that you own, or favorite guitar in general? I'll start. I really love my Paul Stanley, or we like to call it other names.
Yeah. It's got a Paul Stanley Iceman. Is that what it is?
Iceman.
Yeah.
Just I think part of it is because the rhythm guitar, or one of the guitar players for Dragon Force plays with Paul Stanley. So
we were talking the other day about how Paul Gilbert has a version of, it's basically a version of the Iceman that he had made for him, but with the horns reversed, and he calls it the Fireman because it's like an upside down Iceman, and but he had a modification done to it because Paul Gilbert occasionally uses a slide, and so he had this modification done that he can hold the slide with these little magnets on the face of the guitar. So it's kind of like what would be on this horn. It kind of sits like right here. That he can, as he's playing or whatever, he can just slip his finger in as he's playing, quickly, do his slide guitar thing, and then pull it back off, with this kind of motion here as it connects back to the magnets. It's a pretty cool little innovation there. I think maybe at some point in the future, if I get around to building a guitar that would be excellent for doing slide or something like that, I think that'd be something fun to try to work out on one of my instruments too. I was going to show you the progress here. So if anybody's still looking at this, so you can see that the sheen has kind of become less saturated now on the face of the board. You see it's starting to kind of dry up in a few areas, and that is because it's getting soaked into the wood, and that's a good thing. We want to see that on a guitar. It's only been a few minutes, but I'm perfectly happy with the way that this fretboard looks and feels. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe up the excess oil and get to putting some new strings on it, getting that setup done on it.
So this manufacturer is a Goto bridge, and they were smart enough to put this intonation springs are just a little shorter on the lower strings there, because typically those have to be further back. So much, instead of having to cut the spring or something silly, they already gave you shorter spring.
It's nice when people think ahead like that, on those kinds of hardware issues.
Austin looks sweet.
I'm actually noticing a little bit of gunk built up on some of these frets here, so spend the little extra time to just get that a little cleaner looking.
Yeah. What's your favorite guitar, Gabe?
Oh yeah, so
Favorite
that I own.
Or just what's your favorite shape or something? You don't have to own it. I just
So I'm a man of relatively simple tastes. I think with regards to um, instruments that I own. Guitar. First of all, I'm primarily a bass player, so I think my favorite bass that I own is Spectre Euro 5 LX, and that was kind of my dream bass for a long time before I even got into building and anything else. And I saved up for it and wound up purchasing it, and it's still an excellent bass. I've had it for the last almost 20 years now, and it's still just an all around fantastic instrument. And that's my favorite instrument that I own. But when it comes to guitars specifically, I I like a good old fashioned American Strat. I think they're a really
Yeah, can't go wrong.
reliable, good quality instrument, and they're easy to work on. They're simple, and they've got a really classic sound. I do personally like the HSS configuration because I like being able to get a little more beef out of that uh, rear position, out of the bridge position pickup, so it can play a little bit harder stuff. I can kind of I don't know, let that heavier sound kind of come through if I want to, but then also having a coil tap on that rear pickup, just so that you can still get the single coil if you need to. I kind of feel that it's for me anyway the pinnacle of pickup arrangements and getting the most quality sounds out of a single instrument that you can.
Well, the bridge pickup on a Strat Strat pickups are already kind of bright anyway, so
Right.
it's nice having that a little bit warmer, a little bit rounder sounding pickup in
Definitely.
the bridge. 'Cause, that bridge pickup can get a little bitey.
For sure, and you can even do some fun things like the David Gilmour electronics, where you do a push pull on your mid tone knob, and it'll bypass your 5-way switch and turn on your neck pickup with your rear pickup, and that really then gives you some very wide sounds and stuff. So super versatile instrument that you can make easy modifications to and still wind up with something really kind of cool on the other end. So yeah, that's and if you ever want to change back, like, it's an easy change to go back to something original.
Yeah, especially on a Strat, yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of people I know who have just different pick guards with different arrangements, that they can throw into the same instrument, whenever they're feeling something a little bit different. Different set of pickups, different pickup arrangement, even. Have a SSS or an HSS, whatever. So long as the body is capable of doing that, or is routed to be able to accommodate whatever pickup arrangement you want, it's very easy, very doable to you change your strings and change your entire pickup selection in one motion, and you're just done.
Yeah, and most Strats, American Strats, come with routed for a humbucker, even the ones that don't. So.
Yeah, at very least in the rear position.
Yeah,
yes. But oftentimes in both the neck and bridge positions, you'll see that pretty often too. And then also sometimes they're just routed wide open, so you can put 3 humbuckers in there if you wanted to.
Right, the old swimming pool route.
Yeah, the old swimming pool route. Yeah. So I really like a Strat with a maple neck. I am a sucker for a maple neck. Unfinished maple neck is my preference. Yeah. But yeah, as far as I guess if I were to buy another guitar or another bass or something like that, I've always wanted to get myself a I've always been interested in, first of all, Spectre's USA line, which are just phenomenal instruments and absolutely gorgeous. They do some really cool stuff with Buckeye Burl, which is probably my favorite, top wood of any. I just think it's so gorgeous, especially with like the various blues and blue swirls and stuff that it gets in there. I would love to have them do like a Buckeye Burl 5-string LX design. That would be kind of my dream instrument. But I do really like Federa as well. Makes some really, really gorgeous basses that I'm a big fan of. And I would also like a Lakeland. A Lakeland, just like American jazz bass style, would be right up there for me too. You can get into some pretty, when it comes to basses, boutique builders like Lakeland and F-Bass and all those guys. They have a much bigger following than guitar players tend to, more often they tend to stick with like the big name brands. And I guess, but speaking of big name brands though, an actual 60s, like a 68 jazz bass, that's the gold standard. I mean, if you can even find one anymore these days,
I don't know. I kind of like the P Bass sound a little better.
You're a P Bass fan?
Yeah, I mean, just for like, it's not as versatile, I don't think, as the jazz bass, but if you're rocking, I feel like the P Bass kind of fits the role a little better.
For sure, and I have a P Bass that's set up with the round or the flat wound strings, and you get that nice thump out of it, and it's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
I have that bass mostly because it's like for recording. There's just no other way. There's no other sound like it. You can't duplicate that with any other type of bass. And I think as a serious bass player, you kind of have to have a P bass, you have to have a J bass, and you have to have some sort of active bass. Those three sounds are unavoidable in the music production sphere. That's kind of how I have it filled out right now too with my lineup. I do have a J bass, which is a bass that I built. I have a P bass, which is my very first bass that I ever owned. It's based off of an Epiphone P Bass style bass, but I went and completely modded it. Actually, it's right up here. I'll grab it real quick.
So, like a lot of overseas made guitars, this one has a overseas 3-way, and the spacing's not the same, so when we change the control plate here, it will not mount, so we're going to have to change that switch out in order to make it work. Not uncommon.
Oh. Oh well. Anyway, this is my P bass. This originally was a Epiphone P bass that was nothing special. It was my very first bass that I ever owned. Here I'll actually do this here. So this was an Epiphone P bass. The body is original to that. There was really nothing special about this bass. I think it cost me at my local music store when I was 12 years old. Cost me about $150, something like that at the time. And I used it quite a lot. Eventually I started using 5 and 6 string basses a lot more often. And so I didn't really use my 4-string bass all that much. And also it had a rosewood fretboard, and there were little chips out of the fretboard material on the edges of the frets that made it actually really quite uncomfortable to play. It would kind of cut your hand a little bit as you were trying to play it. And so I really never picked it up anymore. And the thing was, I kind of, at one point I said, it's really a shame. I'm never ever going to sell this bass because it's my first bass ever. But it's a shame that I never play it either. you know, it just seems kind of wrong that, you know, I'm keeping this bass and I'm never going to use it. So I said, you know what, like, it is a P bass body. There's no reason that this shouldn't be a good quality instrument. So I went ahead and first of all put a new neck on it, so it's got a maple fingerboard now. I ripped out the electronics and put in a Geezer Butler EMG passive P bass pickups, which are some of the nicest P bass pickups out there in my opinion. I left the original bridge on here because it doesn't really make that big of a difference, I don't think. You know, maybe at some time in the future, maybe I'll replace that, but it's fine as is. And more just for stylistic choices than anything else. I always really liked the 60s style P basses where they had the pickup cover. This is actually a pickup cover from a J bass, so it's not exactly correct for a P bass. But and then of course the thumb guard here, which on the 60s basses they put on the treble side of the instrument, and so I don't really know why they did that. I'm assuming so that you could play with your thumb or something, but it adds a little extra unique look to it. So those are both things I did just for aesthetic reasons. But now this is a bass that is, you know, very useful to me from a recording standpoint. It's how I get my my classic P bass sound. So, you know, it was fun kind of modding this out and making it into something that's useful for me again. So that's what I did with that. I'm gonna go hang this one back. Oh, actually, I'll just hang it here for now. Yeah.
Classic mismatch
Classic
parts right here.
So yeah, what are you working on over there, Mike?
Well, you know, change the bridge, change the plate, and of course the bridge mount's different, so I got to make sure that it is in the right spot. I'm limited to how much I can move it though without routing. None of the holes line up.
Of course not.
And this pick guard, though it fits right, it's kind of odd. So I'm gonna have to.
What's odd about it?
Just some of the holes don't quite line up as to be expected, but I can't move it around to make the holes line up better. You know.
Right.
Kind of stuck where it's at. But
Sometimes when having to put things in on a slight angle or something, you know, when you're just barely off, you know,
yeah,
with a new pick guard.
That's pretty normal when you change a pick guard.
It is pretty normal. Okay. In a little bit, I'm going to show you guys kind of what we've been doing around the shop this past week. We got our spray booth up and running, which is very exciting. We'll be able to offer, you know, finish repairs and stuff, custom finish work going forward. Get my next set of strings here. Of course. I'll give you guys a little tour of our shop there, and that part of what we do.
All right. So make sure the bridge is at least in the ballpark. Come on. May require some more modification, we don't know.
for whatever reason, is just like so eager to jump off of the pegboard.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. So this is a Fender scale length, even though it is not a Fender. Pretty common.
It's always good to check those things, though. Anytime
Yes.
you're putting a new bridge on something.
Always make sure it goes in the right spot so you can intonate. Otherwise, it ain't gonna sound good.
Hello, welcome in
Okay, so it looks like that falls.
to Luthiery Live. We were just sitting here doing a little work. I'm setting up this GNL Legacy Tribute here. And Mike is working on this sort of parts caster, Telecaster over there. And he's installing some new hardware. I'm setting this thing up. This is going to be available for sale here in our store at GabrielsGuitarsStore.com. You can also access that through our main repair website, which is GabrielsGuitars.com, or Spokane.GabrielsGuitars.com if you are here locally in Spokane. Feel free to ask any questions if you'd like about guitar repair or about what we do. I'm going to show you guys our spray booth here in a little while, which is something we've been working on this week. And meanwhile, we've been discussing here earlier. We were talking about various glues that are used in the process of making guitars and repairing guitars, and the validity of using Titebond versus hide glue and those kind of things, and what type of Titebond to use. We also have been talking about our preferences of guitars and what our favorite instruments are. So feel free to contribute if you'd like. Talk about what your favorite instrument is. Mike was telling us that his Iceman there. It's the Ibanez Iceman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of the. Is that that's one of the top tier ones, right? It's like the.
Yeah, it's not made in Japan. But it is. It was 800 new. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. So
Yeah,
it's
still
right
pretty
there. It
high-end
comes with
guitar.
it. Yeah, it came with Seymour Duncan custom pickups. I think they're both customs, like a match set. I could
Okay.
be wrong. And it did come with a bone nut.
That's rare to find on a production instrument these days, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like right there. You're getting all the good hardware and stuff, but it just isn't made in Japan. That's all.
Fair enough. Yeah, and this so this GNL, for example, is also not a made in USA GNL, which a lot of the GNLs are, and that's kind of what they're sort of notorious for, was that they were Leo Fender's last thing and was still being made to his specs, and for a long time they were still only operating out of the US, but these are now made in Indonesia. What are your thoughts on a lot of the stuff that's coming out of China and Indonesia and Korea and stuff like that nowadays?
I think, well, for a while there, it was like Korea, like as far as the cheaper stuff, Korean was the best. But I think that there's some really good stuff coming out of China now. Indonesia, I think, is still kind of the lesser of the three, personally, as far as quality goes. But those Squier Classic Vibes and the Classic Players, those are all really nice guitars.
Those are out of China.
Yeah, Chinese made. Let's see. There's this company called Eastman that's out of China that makes basically Martin copies that sound pretty phenomenal for the price. They're using nitro lacquer. You can get something all solid wood for $1,000 that sounds pretty dang good, and it's actually made out of good mahogany, and you can even get, I don't know if their prices are probably higher now, but but they even had Adirondack spruce tops and stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, since all that Adirondack now is coming from a tree farm, it doesn't have that tight grain that it used to from, you know, the old growth stuff.
Right.
But even with the wide grain, and maybe that's why it does sound so good new, because it has a wider grain. But I heard several people play the same guitar, one with the Adirondack, one with the Sitka, and they love the Adirondack better.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's getting harder and harder. We've talked about this on future or on former episodes, I guess, as well. It's getting harder and harder to find really good quality woods. Even on classic types of wood, spruce and cedar and stuff like that. These are things that the old growth stuff is usually probably either illegal to cut down now, and for good reason. It's been over farmed for so long.
Yeah.
Or it becomes just unavailable, or you're having to find stuff that somebody has stored away in some storeroom somewhere or something like that, and purchase new old stock wood. But the newer stuff that comes out is much lower quality, simply because of the fact that it is grown so much faster, and the trees get a lot bigger faster. Partially because it's warmer, the environment is warmer, and so the trees just naturally grow faster that way. But also they're being farmed, so they're being specifically treated to grow faster.
Well, and also, like, if you're talking about like Sitkas, any like spruce or any softwoods, they grow faster when they're younger and then slow down, and that's a part of the other factor why old growth has tighter grain, because it grows slower. But also, like you said, the bigger the grain, the bigger the rings, the faster the tree's growing. That's a sign of health, though. So it's a
Right.
toss-up.
And having a tighter grain pattern not only equates to better sound, but it also adds more to the structural stability too. A tighter grain is going to be a stronger piece of wood, especially when cut quarter sawn, like what is used in guitars, tops, and things. So it means that there's less of a need for heavy bracing, which is something that winds up having to be done a lot of times now, and reduces the sound quality of the top. So
Yes, it does. I guess that's where custom built versus production comes into play, because in theory, a handmade guitar by luthiers, they're gonna pay attention to that. They might carve the braces a little bit thinner on something tighter grained, and leave them a little thicker on something, and accommodate for each piece of wood. Each top is different. To try to get the same sound out of each top, you're gonna have to build them a little different.
yeah, very much so.
And
That is really what the validity of having an instrument custom made nowadays is that you have somebody paying very, very close attention to these things. That they're first of all, they're selecting the woods individually and for the specific purpose of what you're doing with it, rather than a lot of these larger companies, they're just getting pallets and pallets and pallets of wood, and the wood that's getting selected for the next guitar is the next piece of wood on top of the pile. It makes sense that they'd be building things that way, but it also is not ideal for getting the best acoustic quality, or getting the best tonal qualities for a built instrument. When you have the ability to say, oh, I want to find the one with the tightest pattern, the tightest grain pattern, and it has the straightest grain. Those are things that are only the knowledge of the person doing the building is what's going to set that apart. So, kind of an invaluable portion of the guitar building scene.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know what that chime was, but...
That was my phone.
Oh, your phone. Oh,
Somebody sent me an email.
oh no.
Or I think, let's
What
see.
are we going to do?
Yep, somebody sent me an email. Alright, what do you think? Garbage? I think it's garbage.
Probably garbage.
Garbage. It is.
I can't tell you, you know, being a business owner and having 2 separate locations, I cannot tell you how much garbage email I get. It is just absolutely ridiculous. I wake up every single morning with, you know, probably 30 garbage emails in my inbox, and yep, that's usually what I spend the first 15 minutes of my day doing, is just going through and deleting nonsense that I don't actually need to know about. So, all right. So the action on this instrument was actually pretty good. So I really shouldn't need to adjust this much. But the
Just it anyway.
but the bridge on it, which is a floating bridge, was actually kind of flattened against the face of the guitar, so it really was not properly aligned. So I'm going to get this in tune again now here.
The bridge actually is shorter.
So for anybody who was with us earlier, I was saying this is a very kind of twangy Strat, but it has it's a very classic Strat sound, you know. Actually, really should stretch out these strings a little bit here. Go ahead and do that. I'll have to tune it up again. By the way, this is how you stretch out your strings when you put on brand new ones. This is how I do it anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Just kind of grab it with my thumb and my forefinger and just kind of bend a little bit. Bend the string all the way down, up, and that's why you do it. Because every once in a while you get a string that's not made very well and it breaks. And here's the thing, if I didn't do this now, that is going to break later. Probably right as you're in the middle of your solo on stage. So, not good to have that happening. And of course, the lighter the gauge that you've got, the more likely something like that might occur. There's just more manufacturing errors and mistakes and things that happen with lighter gauge strings. So, luckily we have these for exactly this reason, which are, you know, individual 9-gauge strings. They come in 5 packs, and so we keep these on hand specifically because this kind of thing happens all the time. One of the advantages to having your strings changed at your Luthiery location is the fact that I'm not going to charge you more for this. You know, if this happened to you at home, you're now getting to buy a whole new set, which is super fun. But that's also the reason that we try to pre-stretch your strings and everything before we tell you that it's good to go, and before you pick up your instrument, because these things happen. They happen all the time. All right, I'm going to put my extras back in their little baggie here. Put that back in this case. Put these back with our other strings. That was good timing too, because those strings literally just came in yesterday. We were out of them for a minute. All right.
Problems.
Go ahead and get that strung right back up again. All right. Sounds like we've got a customer coming in here. I'm going to go ahead and stretch my string and hope that this one doesn't break. Seem to be doing all right here. You can hear how much that's stretched though. Thought I had it in my hand, but I did not. It's always important. I shouldn't say it's always important, but we do have a string recycling program here as well. So if you have strings that you've changed out, save them, bring them in, and we can recycle them for you. It's a good program put on by Diodario that helps keep their cost of strings down, as well as, of course, it's good for the environment. Nickel is one of the primary things that is used in creating guitar strings, and it's sort of getting harder and harder to come by. So having the ability to recycle these things is good. Do your part for humanity and all that kind of stuff. It's little things like that that make the difference. So, these are brand new strings, of course, so even with me trying to stretch them out a little bit, it will take a little bit of time. And it is a floating trem as well, so it's going to be a little tuning unstable for the moment, but no big deal. It will even out within the next couple of days here. So I'm just going to kind of wipe this one down, and I'm going to call it a day on this guy. This is, again, a GNL Tribute Legacy. It will be available in store, of course, here in Spokane, and also online on our website, which is Gabriel'sGuitarsStore.com. And it is available at a $450 asking price on that. So, yeah, very, very good quality guitar. Really very good condition as well. I'm going to go ahead and put the back plate back on it. But in very good condition, and plays wonderfully. Mm-hmm. Okay. anybody out there has any questions for us about luthiery or guitars or guitar building or repair, by all means, feel free to ask. That's why we're here. We're here for about another 40 minutes or so. We'll be available for you. As soon as I have this one back on its hanger in our front room, I'm going to show you guys. Let me change the camera here so you're not just staring at my belly. I'm going to show you guys the our new facility, our new spray booth facility, which is going to be allowing us to spray both nitrocellulose and polyurethane finishes, full custom finish work, as well as finish repair. So we're very excited about that. Just a little tiny bit of the spray here should be able to take care of the tiny little bit of gunk I've got on the back here. Yep, and that cleans up very nicely. Just gonna kind of hand buff that out a little bit so it looks really nice and neat for whoever decides that this is going to be their new forever instrument. Excellent. Okay. Now, the only other thing I did want to do here was this guitar has a set screw for the tremolo, and it's not like incorrect as it stands right now, but it's just a little bit more loose than I would like it to be. So I'm gonna see if I can't just slightly tighten that up. Yep, that's what I want. Right there, perfect. Cool. So there we go. Now the tremolo will stay where it's put, but also can still very easily be moved, and it's really just perfect. Beautiful guitar by GNL Tribute Legacy, and I'm going to go ahead and get it tagged up and on our showroom floor here. I will be right back, and then I'll give you a little tour of our new facilities. All right, you guys ready for a little adventure here? Okay. So first of all, I am going to go ahead and switch over to the close-up camera, and then I am also going to switch over our audio. Okay. I think we should be good on audio here as well. So, just going to show you kind of our shop here a little bit. So, this is an area that we do a bit of like our So we feel very, very fortunate that we're going to be able to offer some really good quality, top of the line finish work here at Gabriel's Guitars. So stay tuned for more content about that. We will have lots of information and lots of postings on those kind of things as we do more of these kinds of jobs, both on our Facebook accounts, which is facebook.com, obviously, / Gabriel's Guitars. We also have Gabriel's Guitars Spokane. And we also have our Instagram, which you can find through our Facebook account. You can also find all of our social media links on our website at gabrielsguitars.com. So yeah, pretty cool. We're very excited about that. If anybody has any questions about finish work or anything like that, please let us know. You can also reach out to us via email at admin@gabrielsguitars.com. So pretty cool. We're very excited. All right. Just gonna set that up over here. Very cool. Okay. Put this back in because my oh my. Doing this on a cell phone eats up your batteries super fast.
I thought this had the holes in it for the when I ordered this, I thought it had the holes for the strings, but it does not.
Oh, okay.
That's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, unless we want straight through the barrels. Yeah.
Well, that's not the problem either.
Hey, here's this.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very, very much.
You bet.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Paint chip for reattaching, probably.
Not gonna need it.
Okay. Take that up here. Be right with you.
Yeah. Well, since we'll show here's another example of why your guitar should always be in the case, or at least on the stand. Is, victim here.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate victim. Yeah. The classic headstock crack. They're having us do a little bit of additional work there as well. So, it's going to be a fairly extensive repair. And it sounded like they want us to try to basically hide it completely. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's complete refinish. Well, more or less refinish on the headstock, and then I'll blend it somewhere in the neck as it goes down.
Right, yeah. Just overspraying, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna finish the whole neck. So there's the problem with this guy.
it would be goofy. I'm sure there is. We can find a piece of hardware that will do the trick.
You know, I didn't check Stu Mac, but like, what are we gonna do with this one? Just save it for later?
Yeah, it is what it is. In fact, I've got a couple of tele projects and stuff coming up. I might even be able to use it on that. So.
Yeah, black heart. We could put it on. Hey, let's just use it on that one that we're gonna make. Are we gonna do a black guitar or a white guitar?
Well, we didn't have a set idea on the finish on that yet. It's kind of an open book.
So I mean,
but
we got a black bridge. We could do white on black or black on black
I was like black hardware.
on a white guitar.
Yeah.
Or on a black guitar, but
Either way.
I say we do a white guitar and put this, if we're gonna keep this bridge, and it's for a tele, so, or
Yeah.
for a single coil, and that's routed for a single.
But that we will that is for through, correct?
Yeah, for through.
So we'll have to make that modification to that guitar, but that's fine.
Oh, it doesn't have them yet.
No, it doesn't have the ferrules, but whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
Actually,
it wouldn't be a big deal on this guitar if it wasn't this weird fret. If it was just a regular tele, it'd be a lot easier.
on teles, I actually prefer the through body configuration anyway. We actually
Gives you more
not-
bend, remember?
Yeah. We were actually we just did a whole lot of. There's a lot of debate out there as to whether or not the string length overall has much to do with the ability to bend the string, whether there's actual an increase in tension from having the string through the body, and that is a Luthiery debate that has been going on for a very long time. And in fact, we were talking about this the other day and decided to do some research on it. And it turns out that there have been some sort of anecdotal studies done, not really like perfect studies, but anecdotal and done in a scientific enough way that it seems to make a lot of sense. Which is basically to say that having a longer overall string length does actually make for easier bending regardless of the string gauge. So basically, having a string through body, even though it does not add tension to the string specifically, it does actually give the player a perceived easier playability, which is kind of a cool little trick. So, and that applies even to like a Fender style headstock. So where you have the high E is much further away from the nut than the low E is, you're going to essentially be able to feel more comfortable doing bends on the high E than you would on the low E. So it was a very cool article, and there was loads and loads of information that we kind of had to sift through to kind of get to the meat of what we were conversing about specifically. But lots of interesting information out there that I guess was actually done by Bob Benedetto, who builds some fantastic archtop guitars. I used to be a dealer for them many, many years ago. Just absolutely fantastic instruments. If you ever get a chance to check them out, Benedetto guitars are just some of the best instruments made in the world, today. And yeah, I guess he did some sort of research on this whole notion, because I think a lot of people think that adding string length or by putting a string through your body, you're adding tension to the guitar and thereby making it harder for the string to buzz against the frets or something like that. And in fact, it's not true at all. In fact, it just from like a playability standpoint, or playing the same gauge at the same pitch but with different string lengths, there was no noticeable difference at all to players between one configuration or the other. And the amount of tension that's on the string is irrelevant. Basically, it's like tension equals pitch essentially, and we're speaking about tension specifically from like in terms of like what physics defines tension to be. there's a little bit of like an anecdotal or a colloquial, I should say, term of tension and what that means, but which is not the same thing as what is meant in physics by the term tension. And so, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about tension in terms of the physics of a guitar, tension equals pitch. And so if you have the same size of string, no matter how long it is, it has to have the same amount of tension in order to create the same note. But the thing is that I think people get this kind of confused in their head. They're thinking about tension as some sort of like in some sort of playability, and that's really just not the case. But what they did discover is that when you have an added length of string on either side of the saddle on the bridge side and on the other side of the nut on the nut side, that you actually get more playability out of the string, and you're at the same amount of tension, you're actually getting more bendiness and more ability to play the instrument in fun ways. So it's very cool. The information is available out there online. Take a look or search for the name Bob Benedetto and string tension, and I'm sure those articles will come up for you. It was something that was done, that he did and wrote an article about for American Luthiery, which is sort of an inside business magazine that he did many years ago, probably 20 years ago now. So very cool stuff. Yeah, so we are, I need to put this back on my bass here. Not for sale on my bass. My bass is not for sale. All right. So I see we've got a few viewers here. Again, I'll just say, if you have any questions or have anything to say about guitars or guitar repair, or you have any questions about your instrument, an issue that you're experiencing and what might be causing it or anything like that, that's what we're here for. We're happy to answer any questions you might have about guitar repair, and about guitars in general. Mike and I were previously talking about the validity of using certain types of glue on various guitar repairs, hide glue versus Titebond, and Titebond versus Titebond 2 and 3. Those are very different products, and Titebond 2 and 3 are things you should not use on your instrument, just to briefly recap that subject. We were also talking about our favorite instruments and things too. And we were also talking about spraying and doing finish repair and things like that. Where are you? Did you find something for this one or no?
No, I'm just gonna have to call him because it's either none of the bridges. So any bridges that have this style of saddle, the rectangular saddle, have to be through body. I mean, I think that's just kind of the way they're set up.
Some of them are made to do both.
Right, but it never has this. You could take this and change the saddles. Well, they have those. They have these. See, look here. Right. Oh, that's not. All Parts has one. So All Parts has. That ridge right there. No, that's not it. That's it right there. It's the exact same one. So
Do they have it in black, or
he doesn't like the saddles.
beard here.
I gotta go scuff that out real quick. And then, yeah, I did notice that. I think it is just overspray because I was running my hand over it and I was getting yellow on my hands. So I think.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I don't think the
it's-
naphtha was taken.
Yeah, I
think
don't-
it was just overspray.
Just taking off the little bit
the
of
little
excess,
powder
whatever.
stuff
Yeah.
that didn't stick.
Well. All right, everybody. I think we're gonna call it a day for today. A little bit of a shorter episode today, but we've got a couple of things we got to take care of here, just in our own little realm that we got to get completed out by the end of the day. So we're gonna put the customer first and get that all squared away. But thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate you. Join us again next week, same time, same Luth time, same Luth channel.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing this again. We do it every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time, usually about 2 hours. We do that, and here to discuss any questions, anything about Luthiery or guitars that you might want to discuss. Be sure to subscribe to our channels here on YouTube and on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Gabriel's Guitars or Gabriel's Guitars Spokane, depending on which or both you might care to follow us. We also have our YouTube channel is youtube.com/Gabriel's Guitars. All of our other socials, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of those things are all available on our website, which is www.gabrielsguitars.com or spokane.gabrielsguitars.com if you are local to Spokane. So thank you so much for joining us. We really